for staying with us here on the JoyNews channel. What you see there live on the screen is the National Communications Officer for the NDC, Sami Jainfi, addressing the press, stating the opposition party's official position on Ghana's economic condition, making a number of demands and asking government to scrap some taxes. We'll definitely pay attention to much more of the fallouts and bring you some updates. But you're also watching the polls here on the JoyNews channel. Still to come, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission concludes modalities for the payment of the cost of living allowances to public sector workers, but it's actually unclear exactly when the money will hit their accounts.
Realizing the money in your pocket, we are working on the schedule, and I'm sure maybe in about 2 weeks to 3 weeks time, government will come up public with the exact date that you have it in your pocket, but it will be very soon.
Stay with us as we hear from the Commission as they sign a pact with interstate organizations to reduce payroll fraud. It's all coming up here on the Pulse. And no Ghana card, no votes. That's the warning from the Electoral Commission to prospective voters ahead of the 2024 elections. Stay with me as we engage the Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Eric Bosman-Asare. He's my special guest this afternoon on The Pulse. I am Blessed Sogah. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. Remember, this afternoon, we're streaming live on YouTube and all of our social media handles is at JoyNews on TV. Thanks for choosing us. Wages and Salaries Commission says it has successfully completed drafting modalities for the payment of the cost of living allowances, COLA, for all public sector workers. CEO Ben Arthur tells JoyNews government is required to shortly announce when workers can begin to receive the allowance in their accounts. Demands for COLA resulted in weeks of labor agitation and industrial actions, forcing government to commit to paying the workers some 15% of their basic salaries. Mr. Arthur has been speaking to JoyNews on the sidelines of the signing of a memorandum of understanding with the Internal Audit Agency to check payroll fraud.
MOU with IAA is premised on the fact that Fair Wages is mandated to do payroll monitoring. But knowing our size and knowing very well that we are not in every office, especially the public offices. We are not having desks everywhere, but Internal Audit Agency has units in almost all the public sector institutions. So we're collaborating with them for them to share relevant information with us, for us to do same. And not only that, anytime they are able to discover anomalies, especially as to the sources of pay structure and who has mandated what, we should be able to share relevant information and take the appropriate action. We are doing this to serve Mother Ghana and to ensure that we'll be able to protect the public purse. That's the main reason behind this collaboration. We will not stop here. We are currently in talks with Sogah, and eventually we'll get to the audit service and try and sign similar MOUs with them to collaborate. The idea of collaboration is golden in this matter because working in silos has not helped. We have other institutions with similar mandates along certain lines. The time has come for us to collaborate and to ensure that the right things are done.
The biggest issue when you talk about payroll mostly has to do with people talking about payroll fraud and ghost names on payroll and all those things. Are those things that you can practically expect some changes to be made to us in terms of this particular
Definitely. This MOU will go a long way in curbing that canker, if I should put it that way. We admit there are times that we detect ghost names, but working together, such as we have agreed to do, will go a long way to eliminating ghost workers on government payroll. With a frequent monitoring, I'm sure that we'll be able to undertake this exercise effectively.
I mean, quite recently, we know the Commission has been intervening in some labor issues, the COLA and all those issues. What's the latest on that?
The latest is that that agreement still stands, and we are certain that government will implement it. So nobody should have doubts in their minds. As soon as possible, we will communicate to you later on this, but we promise that it will be effective from July. Effective means that is when the implementation starts. Realizing the money in your pocket, we are working on the schedule, and I'm sure maybe in about 2 weeks to 3 weeks time, government will come up public with the exact date that you have it in your pocket, but it will be very soon.
The last time you said you were drafting some modalities, has that been completed?
That has been done, and it has to be communicated to organized labor. So I don't want to use this forum to break the news.
So it's evident now that the workers have not received the cost of living allowances. But what's their take on this? Bernard Ajay is General Secretary of the Public Services Workers Union. In fact, they were lacing their boots to embark on an industrial action before that intervention by the Ministry of Labour Relations. So, Bernard, what's your reaction to this? I need to even confirm from you, it's past July. So are you able to confirm or deny if you've received that 15% allowance that you were asking government?
All right, sorry about that. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your cherished listeners and viewers. Yes, I can confirm that we have not yet received the COLA as agreed, the 15%. It could not be paid in July because, and it's understandable, because at the time we reached the agreement, payroll was already completed and was closed. You know, payroll system goes through a certain process. There are times that the window is open and there are times that it is closed. So as workers, we knew that because of the fact that at the time we finished the negotiations, the payroll was completed, and therefore it was not possible to pay it in July. But obviously, the expectation of all of us is that the payment will be done in August, together with the arrears for the July payment. Then we could go ahead. So that is what has happened. It could not be paid in July for very reasonable and obvious reasons. But the good thing was that we were able to conclude the negotiations on it and had come to a 15% increment for COLA. So that is the current situation.
And was this the impression many of you had as leadership of organized labor at the time you were signing the agreement?
Well, at the time we were signing the agreement, we were hoping that some allowance could be made so that it could be paid in July as well. But for us, or for me as General Secretary of Public Services Workers Union, I believe that we must let the systems we have put in place in terms of handling these things also run. And there was no need to disrupt that system or cause any disruption of that system. You know, the controller system also has its own challenges, and any attempt to try to maybe disrupt may also cause other problems, which will come back to affect us as workers as well. So there was no need to rush the system at the time, because the period or the window had closed at that time. But like I said, another payroll season for August is up, and we are hopeful and expecting that the appropriate entries, once there's been agreement on what is to be paid, and as I heard the Chief Executive of Fair Wages say, they have also put in place all the modalities and everything. And I'm happy he said he will not announce it here because they know what to do. Yes, they know what to do. So they'll go through the right process, let us know that they have completed and they are made the input. And we are expecting the payment to start in August.
Well, I was asking the question because your group was the latest at the time to have declared some, warning that you may lay down your tools if government does not pay the allowance. So what will this mean? A further delay in the payments? What will it mean for the industrial action that you were set to embark on at the time the MOU was signed?
All right. So at the signing of the MOU, I believe the Secretary General, our leader, spoke on our behalf and made it clear that with that understanding we have reached, our action, which was to come on the following Tuesday, and all other strike actions that were planned regarding the issue of the cola had been called off. And we have also called that off accordingly in the spirit of good faith. We have no reason to believe that government will want us to get back to that. And I think that the process will work, the system will work. That's the good faith we expect.
Yeah, but your patience is being tested now. How much time do you have?
No, I think the window for August has not been closed. So I would not jump to that conclusion for now. But I can assure you, if it is not paid in August, then it changes the dynamics. And then we will meet. I mean, our structures will meet. But I would not advise or suggest to government that they let that happen. I know they know what to do. The National Security Minister himself was in the meeting, and I believe that his men have picked up appropriate signals on the ground at the time what was happening. None of us want to put this country into any situation that may make our current circumstances even worse than it is. So I believe, together with the National Security Ministry, the Labor Ministry, the Fair Wages, and all major stakeholders, my colleagues in the other labor groups, I believe the best thing is for government to do all it can to make sure that it is paid for August.
All right,
and like I said, the payroll has not closed yet. It will be dealt with, and I am very confident that government will want to avoid any unnecessary disturbance in our industrial relations system, so that we can concentrate on bringing this country back to where it should be.
Let's see what happens in the coming days, but I'm so grateful that you've been able to spend some time with us. Bernard J, General Secretary of the Public Sector Workers Union. Well, we're also learning this afternoon that there could be some increment in tariffs, but the PURC is dismissing all of these reports that tariffs may go up effective September 1. Well, that was according to the Daily Graphic, reporting that utility bills may go up in the coming days. It comes after PURC carried out a nationwide consultation on proposals that it received from utility companies, which demanded an upward review of more than 100%. Well, this would have been the first review of utilities since 2019, but PURC says no official communication has been released to that effect. Well, we're joined now by the Director of Research and Corporate Affairs at the PURC. Let's bring him in now as he explains to us the details of what it is that they'll be doing in the coming days. Dr. Eric Osabute is in charge of that department. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. So, Doc, we've seen the reports indicating that there's likely to be an increase. And for many experts as well, this is something that is set to happen, given the demands that we're seeing from the utility companies. But why are you saying that some of these reports are not true?
Good afternoon. To the best of my knowledge, the PURC has not come up with any official communique, so I really cannot speak to that particular issue. Unless maybe the Commission comes out with a particular communique, then I can pick up to that one.
But what is it that the PURC will take into consideration when you're announcing that final decision of what tariffs would have to pay in the coming days?
Well, I believe they will take into consideration all the factors that go into setting up a tariff and the guidelines that the PURC has set up on the website of the PURC itself. We'll look at things like the debt, the SBT, we'll look at the depreciation factor, we'll look at the exchange rate, we'll look at the inflation rate, we'll look at so many other factors, including the public hearings that we've had across the country. We'll take all those things into consideration. And the papers that were presented to the Commission by the CSOs and the PUC, AGI. We take all of those factors into consideration before a decision is arrived at.
Yeah, but I guess the concern, the ultimate one of Ghanaians, will be what will happen to the tariffs? Will it go up, still remain at the point it is, or perhaps we'll have a downward review, which hasn't happened in a very long time?
I believe you've answered that question because there are three sides that the tariff take. It either go up, go down, or be maintained as where it is. At this particular point in time, the decision has not been made as to whether there will be an upward adjustment or review, or a downward, or still remain the same. Once that decision has been arrived at and communicated by the board of the PURC to us, the Secretariat, we effectively communicate that message to the public.
Yeah, but you're not ruling out the fact that there could be an increase in the figures.
I cannot speak to that particular one.
But when are we even set to get that announcement from the PURC? Some have argued that you are not being fair to the utility companies, particularly as they've not seen any major increase in, about more than 5 years, since 2019, I guess, or 2017 as we're learning of. So what's really happening, and when are we likely to see that announcement?
Well, we had a major tariff adjustment in 2018, and in that tariff review, there was a downward trend tariff. So we cannot say that it's been a long time in 5 years we've not had any tariff review. And within that 2018 till now, within in 2019, there was a tariff review. And we've been applying what we previously called automatic tariff adjustment formula, which we now call quarterly adjustment. We've been applying that on a quarterly basis. But this 2022, we are engaging ourselves in the major tariff adjustment period again. And as we speak, all processes have been undertaken. The stakeholder consultations have been done. We have spoken to the public. So the Commission has done its work. The Secretariat has done its work and passed it on to the commissioners. The commissioners are taking a decision on it. That decision, I am not privy to that decision, so I really cannot speak to that one until such time that decision is made.
There seems to be some level of unanimity in the decision of the public utility companies. Most of them, you find their threshold above 100%. What's accounting for that, and is that likely to influence your judgment?
Well, the commissioners will decide on all of that because I know they've engaged the utility service providers. They've spoken to them to justify the costs that they are putting there. Some of the costs have been toned down, as some of the costs have been accepted. So it all comes down to what the commissioners will finally come out with as the decision that they have made. Then that can be communicated to the general population. But as we speak, that decision has not been made.
All right, then. I'm grateful, Doc, for your time here.
You're welcome.
On The Pulse.
You're welcome.
Well, we'll still monitor and see what the developments will be, but let's try and break this down for you and get what it is that the utility companies have been asking for. Isaac Ophir is with our research desk, joins us now via Zoom. So, Isaac, break it down for us. The ECG is not asking for anything below 100%. So, take us away with the figures then and break down the concerns of the utility companies for us.
Tariffs in Ghana has to go through 4 different stages, with the first stage being proposals being made by the utility company itself, and then they have to submit this proposal to the PURC. Then the PURC would have to make consultative meetings with stakeholders, and then the final one would have to do with making decisions or determination as to whether the proposals being made by these utility companies should be accepted or reduced or even increased. But if we look at the various demands, the Ghana Water Company is in fact requesting for the highest 334 adjustments, and they give their reasons, which is being splashed on the screens right now. 334% adjustments being requested by the Ghana Water Company, followed by ECG requesting for 148% upward adjustment. And they also gave some reasons why they are requesting for that 148. And also NEDCO also requesting for 113 upward adjustment. We also have BRA requesting for 37%, and then GridCo requesting for 48% blessed.
But then in all of this, do they have similarities as to why they are asking for the increment?
Well, basically, it's just to help them also make profits. Well, most of them are not set to make profits actually, but if you look at ECG, for instance, it's to help actually better the provision of their service to customers and also do some upgrade works. And then it's fair to say that the last time we had an upward adjustment in terms of the tariff it's about at least 4 years ago, and so we do this almost every window, and then usually when we have this, we see the price or the tariffs either going up slightly or above what is requested, or what has been requested is sometimes slashed. So if you look at ECG, for instance, they are requesting for 48. So the proposal we see right now will capture from this year 2022 to 2027, and so if you see the trend analysis for ECG, you see an upward adjustment every year. So the adjustment is not going to be for just 1 year, but you have some marginal increase from 1 year, year on year, marginal increase from 2022 to 2027.
At least we're getting that official position from the PRC now, indicating to us that the tariffs may not go up. At least it's not been communicated. But from the projections we're doing, is it likely to have the same rate when the PRC comes out?
Well, it'll be difficult because if you look at the things that most of these utility companies want to do, it means they need liquidity. And most of these companies are being funded by the state, and the state itself also finds itself in some financial, liquidity trap. And so everyone will have to beef up in terms of revenue generation. For ECG, for instance, in the SOE report, made some profit, and that's some good news. And so they would want to beef up in terms of their revenue generation and even collection, and sometimes through this tariff that they set. So it will be very difficult to still keep the tariff at the current rate because of the reason that they have given. But we are projecting that although PRC hasn't come out with any official statement, and we feel that the tariff may go up slightly. Possibly these companies may not get the proposal that they turn into PRS because probably they are too high, or maybe consumers may not be able to pay, looking at the conditions we find ourselves in.
Okay then, let's leave that for now. Isaac Ofieje with our research desk here at Joy News. No Ghana card, no votes. That's the warning from the Electoral Commission to prospective voters ahead of the 2024 elections. Well, I caught up with the Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Eric Bosman-Asare. We'll tell you all about that and bring you excerpts of that interaction right after this break. And you're welcome back. Now, no Ghana card, no votes. That's the warning from the Electoral Commission to prospective voters ahead of the 2024 elections. Well, I caught up earlier today with the Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission in charge of corporate services, Dr. Eric Bosman-Asare, who gave me further details about their roadmap to the 2024 elections, plus some other developments. Dr. Bosman-Asare, thanks for talking to Joy News. We're just about 2 years away from the next general elections, which is happening in 2024. And some experts are of the opinion that this is a very opportune moment for you as the Electoral Commission to retreat, re-strategize, and plan for the next exercise. What have you been up to as the Electoral Commission in readiness for that major elections which will happen in 2024?
Thank you, and let me say, as an institution, we appreciate the work of such bodies like Joy FM, Joy News, and all the media houses in Ghana. You always give us the opportunity to be able to tell the good people of this country what we do as an institution and what we are doing. As you rightly pointed out, 2024 elections is maybe some 2 years away. I know many people would think it's very, very far, but I concede that Ghana has also become an elections country. We are always thinking about the next elections. And I remember as a student at the PhD level, one of the things I was introduced to as one of the main functions of politicians and especially members of parliament is to think about the next elections. So as an institution, we also think about the next elections. And the Electoral Commission, basically what we have been doing, we always strive to do better than the previous elections. And when you look at what happened in 2020, both international, domestic observers, even as well as the media locally and Ghanaians themselves who experienced the elections concluded that this will go down as the best elections in our country. Nevertheless, we are still working hard to ensure that 2024 will even be much, much better. And if you remember, in 2020, the EU Observer Mission gave the Electoral Commission 95%. And the Electoral Commission even thought that we could have gotten everything, but nevertheless, again, 95% is very, very enviable for any institution to be giving such a mark. So as a commission, we are doing a lot of things, and one of the key things we have started us to do with very soon we'll be rolling out what we call the continuous registration of voters. You know, in 2020, we did this mass registration exercise where almost 17 million Ghanaians were registered, slightly over 17 million. And since then, we've not been able to add on to the register. So the Commission is rolling out a program so that hopefully by the end of this year, Ghanaians who did not register in 2020 and those who turned 18 years last year and this year and have not had the chance to register will also be given the chance to go ahead and register.
And we'll get into the details of that exercise because it's beginning to generate some concerns. But since you're talking about the last elections and the fact that it went well and you're planning to make it better, I'm sure that there are some activities that you are rolling out now, all aimed at sanitizing the system ahead of the 2024 elections. And part of that has got to do with the audit of the political parties that we have in the country. The last check from the website of the Electoral Commission points out that we have some 27 political parties. But the Commission is getting worried that some of these political parties just exist in names. For instance, the chairperson some weeks ago was talking about the fact that they need to be national in nature, and if they don't attain that posture, you're going to strike them off the record. How far with that exercise, and how many political parties are on the brink?
So far, the exercise has been concluded. But when you conclude such a major exercise, you need to have a report for the commissioners to look at it and come up with certain conclusions. Indeed, we had a team that went around the whole country, and at the national office, some of us even took part. The chairperson, myself, the deputy chairman of operation, we even went to some of the offices of the political parties. And the commission is currently looking at the report from the field. And based on the outcome of that particular exercise, the commission will have to make a determination. Because when you look at the law clearly states that political parties are supposed to meet certain requirements. For example, when you look at the district level, they are supposed to operate in 2/3 of the districts. And we expect that they will have regional, national offices. So as an institution which is supposed to ensure that the political parties conform according to the rules of our country and according to the democratic ethos, we are compelled to make sure that the right things are done. So I believe that the Commission will look at the report critically and will make the findings available to Ghanaians. And when we come to the realization that clearly, based on the law, some parties are not meeting the requirements to exist as political parties, we may end up removing them from the list of political parties.
I'm sure that you on that trip yourself, so you have some first-hand information as to some of the observations that you've made personally on that tour, assessing the political parties. What are some of the worrying trends that you've identified with the interactions with some of these political parties?
No, clearly, Ghana doesn't have a state funding policy of political parties. And this is a country, when you look at the constitution, our constitution encourages multi-party democracy. And any constitution that encourages multi-party democracy, what it actually means is that you believe in the formation of several political parties. So the EC is very, very careful trying to balance. Because if you really want to apply the rule to the letter, maybe we may end up having only one or two political parties in
about going to that,
Ghana.
The duopoly between the NDC and the NPP.
So as an institution, we're also very mindful of what the Constitution requires of us. Constitution encourages multi-party democracy. plurality in our politics. So we must be very careful in having a balance in our system. However, it doesn't also mean that parties will just be existing in names, so that when you have an IPAC, they will just come, but you go to the district or the constituency level, they are not there. So at the highest level of the commission, we are looking at all this so that we'll come up with a clear framework which will say that because these parties don't meet criterion A or the following criteria, we are going to crack the whip and maybe give them some time to put their houses in order, or if they cannot do that, then they may end up being...
But the inference I'm getting also from your point is that finance appears to be a big challenge for, let me say, the lesser-known political parties. Is that an admission on your side?
No, I think that, to have offices in all parts of the country, currently Ghana has 16 regions. We have the national capital, Accra is also there. Then we have almost 267 or so districts, and the constituencies are 275.
Right.
So if a smaller political party will have to rent, you are looking at over 300 locations. Almost 300 locations to rent in these places. And averagely, if they are even supposed to pay, let's say, 5,000 in rent per year for each location, that's a lot of money. So I think it's also a major challenge which we have to look at. But you look at the size of a country like Ghana, maybe do we need all these political parties for a population of around almost 32 million?
Yeah, right.
Do you need almost 30 political parties, or maybe some 8 political parties, some 10 political parties who are ready to meet the requirements should be allowed to operate without any impediment? So the Commission will look at all that, but as an institution, we are committed to the Constitution's multi-party democracy. Are you set to engage
the political parties on this once more before you come up with your findings?
Oh, usually, there are certain functions the Electoral Commission performs, and which require that we engage the political parties to do it. And for this particular function, where you are in charge of cracking the whip, I don't know a situation whereby a teacher will be assessing the students to determine those who have passed and those who have not passed, and the teacher will engage the students to let them know why. No, obviously there should be a criteria which should be known by all, that you are supposed to meet A, B, C, and D. You are supposed to have a well-functioning district office, at least 2/3 of our districts. You are supposed to be having a functional, regional, national office. Once those indicators are very clear, and before we embarked on the exercise, we wrote to the political parties to inform them that the EC will be going on the field to be able to check all this.
So if leadership of, for instance, some of these lesser-known political parties are listening now, how much time do they have on their hands to put their house in order? Or perhaps the grace period is over. Is that the case?
No, this is what I made the point that the Commission will decide. Because as a Commission, we are committed to multi-party democracy. That's what the Constitution requires of us. So if it means clearly there are some people, when you give them the time, they will be able to put certain things in order so that they will be fully functioning. Why not? Because we don't think we want to get to the point where there will be only one political party, only 2 political parties. If we can have many political parties, that will be meeting the requirements. And currently we have many on our books, so we do expect that a number of them will be able to meet the requirement. Maybe we don't know the exact number now because the team is still finalizing the report, but I do expect that quite a number of them should be ready to function really as political parties.
Beyond the reforms in terms of auditing the political parties, very recently, the controversy surrounding voter registration has come up once more. And this time around, it's coming from the minority in Parliament. They are claiming that the Electoral Commission is asking for some $80 million to compile a new voters register. For some Ghanaians, it's quite surprising that the Commission will be asking for more money when it just completed a new voter registration exercise before the 2020 elections. How true are these rumors, and what is the Electoral Commission seeking from Parliament?
No, there is no truth to that. The reason being that I got to hear of that in the news. I think I was listening to one of the media outlets, and the information came that they said the EC was going to compile a new register, and that the EC was going to Parliament to ensure that we will get about 80 million or so. And that was new to me because I didn't know the institution I work with was even taking that decision. And for the sake of our audience, let me put it very bluntly that this is not true. The EC has never said anywhere that we will be compiling a new register and that we are going to require additional $80 million from Parliament to be able to do that. However, what the EC has been saying is that since the 2020 mass registration exercise, the EC has said we don't foresee us compiling a new voters register again. We don't foresee doing that again for many, many years to come. And that the EC recently has made it very clear that we are going to conduct what we call the continuous registration of voters. And what that continuous registration of voters actually implies is that now we have the register, we have over 17 million people who are registered, almost 17 million, 27,000 Ghanaians on our roll. Those numbers are intact, all their details are intact, and their information, biometric, all the information, the facial features, everything is intact. So what the Commission is going to do, hopefully by the end of this year, is to roll out the continuous. And the continuous basically means those who did not get the chance to register in 2020, although they had turned the age of 18, but they didn't get the chance or they were not even in the country at the time of the registration. And for those who turned 18 after the registration exercise, I think the registration exercise ended somewhere in August, although we did some limited exercises after that. It ended that time. All those who turned 18. So let's say you turned 18 in September last year, November in 2020, September in 2020, and all those who turned 18 last year, and currently those who have turned 18 in this year, and those who are, as we are speaking now.
Right. So once you turn 18, you can go ahead.
And what we are basically saying is that people should just go and get their Ghana card. And that's the document we've sent to Parliament.
We'll talk about the issue about the Ghana card shortly, but on the claims that you're asking for fresh funding to compile a new register, even if you're not asking for the funds, you do agree that the continuous registration exercise will demand some resources?
No, it will not. The continuous registration exercise takes place at our district offices.
But that would certainly come at
no,
some cost.
It doesn't demand any cost because we have the equipment already. The equipment for registration are there, and we have our officers on the ground. So it's part of our daily administrative work. So when you go to our district office now, let's look at Ayawaso West, Ayawaso, the constituency where Legon. Right. When you go there now, we have a municipal officer, a deputy municipal officer. We have a secretary. And these three people are there to do that when we start. So
you're not recruiting additional personnel?
No, we are not recruiting additional personnel.
What did you lay in Parliament, and how is it the case that such a very well-organized groups of MPs would say, well, they are getting a sense that you're asking for more money to compile in your register?
You know, the Parliament has a committee called the Special Budget Committee. Right. And the Special Budget Committee, I see that committee as perhaps the single most important. All the committees are very important, but when it comes to financial issues, they handle that. And the EC is accountable to the Parliament of Ghana, but we do it directly through the Special Budget Committee. Usually when we will undertake such a major exercise, you go to them to explain to them that, oh, next year in 2023, this is what we are going to do. So we will require this amount of money. And they may end up pushing the Ministry of Finance to ensure that those funds are released. And last year we didn't do that. We didn't go to them that we'll be compiling a new voters register, which will require additional amount of money. So for the continuous, as I said, we have our staff in the office. It will not require. If even it will require, it means where we don't have the full complement. As I speak now,
is that why you are asking for the 80 million, or there's no amount? There's no amount you are asking.
There's no amount we are asking.
Budget
about 80 million in Ghana cedis now will be about 400 and almost 500 million. And our budget for this year is not even up to 20% of that. So clearly there is no truth to that.
But what's setting is that you'd definitely go ahead with a continuous registration exercise. So what's going to be the requirement, and what are the timelines that you're dealing with?
Currently, we've sent the document, the CI, on the registration of voters to Parliament. And what the Commission, based on interactions with our political parties, as well as civil society, you know, IPAC is made up of the EC and political parties, but we have civil society organizations that have observer status. We had plenty discussions with them, and last year too we had a meeting in one of the hotels with the political parties, civil society for 2 days, and it was agreed that now that the Ghana card has made a lot of impact in our society. As we speak now, almost 17 million of our people, of Ghanaians, have registered for the Ghana card. So the commission, in collaboration with our partners, took the decision that now let's have the Ghana card as the main requirement. So what this means is that as soon as you acquire your Ghana card with the continuous registration, you just go to our district office, the district where you are located. So let's say you reside in, let's say Tema, right. Tema Central. As soon as you acquire your Ghana card, then you go to our office in Tema Central, then you go and register, then your name will be put on the roll of voters. Basically, that's what we are doing. And you know the Ghana card is acquired at the age of 15 based on the information they put out there. Yeah. So what we are saying is that we should encourage people, go ahead and get your Ghana card. As soon as you turn 18, then you present it to the registration officer, and instantly you are going to be registered.
The Ghana card itself, you agree, and I'm sure that you're well aware of what's happening in the country with regards to, for instance, the SIM re-registration, where that piece of document is also being required. A lot of Ghanaians out there do not have the Ghana cards. So what timelines are you working with, and could it not be the case that some persons may be disenfranchised as a result of requiring the Ghana card for the continuous registration exercise?
No, as I pointed out, based the information we have received indicates that almost 17 million people have registered. I think the last time, about 2-3 weeks ago, it was 16,900,000 and something. Right. And when you look at Ghana's population, we are looking at those who have attained the age of 18. Those are the people who register to vote. And I made the point earlier that the Ghana card is acquired at the age of 15. Right. And this continuous registration, we are not registering all Ghanaians. Okay. We are only registering Ghanaians who have turned 18 since the last registration exercise. And when you look at what the experts tell us in terms of the numbers, the number of people who turn 18 every year will be about 400 to 550,000. So as we speak now, we are looking in a year, we are looking at almost about 900,000 or so people who have not registered. So we are not registering all Ghanaians in the continuous registration exercise. We are only registering those who didn't get the chance to register in 2020 and those who have turned 18 since the last registrations. And what we are saying is that acquire the Ghana card. And this exercise is continuous till the next elections. So you know next year we have the district level elections, which will probably be between maybe September to November, thereabout. So we are going to be registering Ghanaians from when we begin till that time. Then when we have the elections, then we come back again. So we have a space of almost 2 years or more. So what the commission has put out there basically is that if everything goes according to plan, people should just be encouraged to get their Ghana card. As soon as you get it and the registration has started, then you go to your district office.
Why are you not open to other forms of national identification?
The commission strongly believes that we have come of age as a country. You know, we've been in this business since '92. That's almost 30 years. We used to have what we call the guarantor system. But as an institution, we've realized that, and we've come to the conclusion that the guarantor system is fraught with a lot of irregularities. Or clearly you have situations where people will be fronting for people who are not 18 years. Then we end up going through a challenge process where it can even get to the court system. So what the commission is now saying is that if we have a system that is considered a best practice, the Ghana card, and as we speak now, almost about of the adult population, maybe about 70-80% of them have acquired it. We still have a certain number. And we are only looking for about 450,000 people a year to be able to add on to it. Let's encourage them to go and get it. And that one, when you get the card and you come, it shows your age and everything. Right. So what we are saying is that will eliminate some of the challenges we are having in our democracy. And when you look at, I think the media, political parties, parliamentarians, all of us are interested in having a system that is very, very clean, that is very, very perfect. And what we are saying is that if we do this particular thing, and we have more years, let's push the National Identification Authority to make sure that registration centers are fully functioning. Let's encourage our people who have 10, 15, 16, 17 to go and get it. If you are 18, just go to the registration office and do it.
I was speaking to the General Secretary of the NDC some days ago, and he pointed out that, well, the party concedes that the Ghana card is very useful in that 2024 exercise. However, there appears to be some challenges with the guarantor system for the the Ghana card itself in terms of acquiring it for persons particularly who have been out of the country and may need someone to guarantee for them that indeed they are citizens. Looking at some of these bottlenecks with the Ghana card acquisition itself, is the EC not worried that some Ghanaians, some of our brothers who are in neighboring countries may have a challenge going through that process successfully and eventually getting onto the electoral roll?
No, I think let me be very frank with you. Based on our assessment, we don't think this is supposed to be an issue. Because once you are a Ghanaian, the Ghana card has a requirement for you to be able to acquire. As you pointed out, some people can guarantee for you. A whole lot of things can be done for you to do. And what we are basically saying is that as an institution, the country has come of age. We've done this guarantor for almost 30 years now, and the problems keep repeating themselves. So if by God's grace, we now have a system which will show that these are people who are Ghanaians, why do we still want to do the same old thing? And these are the things, then political parties, these people are fighting each other, attacking each other, that somebody clearly is underage, and some people are trying to front for the person. And the election, the general elections is not this year. We still have, we are in August now, and we are looking at December. So you believe
there's ample time to
No, we have ample time to be able to do it. And we are not registering all Ghanaians. So what we are saying is that, and you know, I made the point and I've been emphasizing, the card is acquired at the age of 15.
Right.
So those who are 15, 16, and we are going to register those who are 18. What prevents us from even after country saying that let's give the preference to these individuals?
In fact, some people have
so
been
that we can do that.
touting that process of trying to use the Ghana card for the continuous registration exercise. I recall the Vice President speaking a few days ago saying that it will solve a number of issues with the voter register and the electoral roll. The Vice President does not speak for the EC. So I just want to hear from you, as the Commission itself, what specific problem will the Ghana card resolve with our electoral roll?
I mentioned earlier that in 2020, for example, we had several people who are minors who registered, and they were subject to the challenge process. Some of them even ended up going to a magistrate, some of them even a high court. And clearly you could see these people were minors. So what the Commission is saying is that we don't go and get the primary data. There is an institution that has the capacity, that has been equipped to get the primary data of Ghanaians. Right. So anyone who wants to come and register with us and vote, just go to that institution, let them take you through their examination process. You are screened and they will issue you with the card. As soon as you get that, just come to us. No, the right to vote is so sacrosanct, it's so fundamental. You look at Article 42 of our Constitution. But we also recognize that there must be some rules in place. So the CI is basically saying that people should just get the Ghana card and come. And all of us are interested in having a system that is very, very robust. A system that is very, very scientific, that is considered a best practice. And what we are saying is that with the numbers that have acquired, we just have to encourage the institution to continue to build on the successes.
So what problem will it solve for the EC?
It will solve the problem we have with the guarantor system, where you have minors. People will be fronting for people who are not Ghanaians. They will come and register. People will be fronting for people who are 14 years. Clearly, you can see these people are in GSS 1 and they are about 12, 13 years. Somebody will still insist that they are 18. And you have to go through a challenge process, get to the court, get education of a whole lot of committees to look at it. And so what the Commission is saying is that with the growth of our democracy, what prevents us from telling people, go and get the card and come? Even when you have the card and you are coming to register, it doesn't mean you cannot be challenged. But what it means is that one hurdle has been crossed. Right. And it bodes well for our system. And this is a problem we think that it must be cured.
Even as we look ahead to the 2024 elections, there are some groups of Ghanaians who still feel that they've been disenfranchised in the last elections, which is the 2020 elections. So I'm not sure you are done and over with the previous exercise that you carried out. And that has got to do with the people of Santro Kofi, Akpafu, and Lolobi. Their case, we understand, is in court, but they claim they've not heard from the courts till date. And they've still been at your doorsteps asking you to intervene and either organize a new elections or find a way for them to vote for their MPs. What advice are you getting from your lawyers on what to do with the SALL, the Santro Kofi, Akpafu, and Lolobi areas? I
think this is an issue. I think some people have been trying to blame the EC for why they did not vote for a member of parliament.
In the area.
Let's get the records clear. The Parliament of Ghana passed that district, the LI which created the district. Right. It passed somewhere on November 10th. We had the elections December 7th. Yeah. So the LI that created that particular district, it passed the parliament somewhere November 9th or November 10th, 2020. And they wrote to us, I think through either the Ministry of Local Government or Parliament itself, wrote to us to inform us. And when we got that letter, it was around either 13th or 14th. So when we got that letter, Parliament was even on recess. And once the LI created the SALL district, EC must now lay a new CI to create a constituency. How many days for you to lay for a CI to mature? 21 working days. Right. When Parliament is sitting, 21 days. So the time Parliament passed that district, the LI that created the district, and the time we received it, Parliament was even on. So no, anyone who blames the EC for why the people there did not vote for a member of Parliament just doesn't understand. The person doesn't get it. But the EC had nothing to do with it.
But the problem...
The blame should go to Parliament.
But the problem is still there.
No, the problem is still there because, by law, by our law, a member of Parliament, for presidential election, the whole Ghana is one constituency. Right. That's why they voted in the presidential election. But for the parliamentary, one MP cannot be voted for in two separate districts. Right. So December 7th, Hohoi was a district. December 7th, 2020, Hohoi was a district. Where Mr. Kofi Adams is also the member of parliament. Yeah, the Buem. Also a district. The SALL was also a district. So the people of SALL, if they had voted for the MP for Buem, or they had voted for the MP for Hohoi, that would have been an illegality. I hope you consider that.
But that's why I'm asking about what your lawyers are telling you, because I'm sure that it's come to your attention.
The Commission has taken the steps.
The group says they've petitioned you as well.
No, the Commission has taken the steps.
So what's the resolution now? Would they have to wait until 2024? Is that the resolution now?
Per our laws, when it happens that way, I know it's the next election. Unless maybe the member of parliament at a place has died, vacated, or something. But per law, I'm sure it's going to be the next election. The EC has taken the steps to be able to lay a CI to create that particular constituency. And a number of things are going on there.
So your message to constituents there is that they should wait until the
next election? They'll vote in the next election as far as the law is concerned.
Some lawyers have also argued that we could just start afresh, organize fresh elections in the area for them to at least have the opportunity to cast their vote for an MP.
I think that one, the EC is a law-abiding institution. If somebody takes this issue to court, and the Supreme Court or any of the higher courts comes out with a ruling that the EC should go ahead and organize a fresh elections for them, we'll go ahead and do it. Well, the EC is a law-abiding institution, and the experts will tell you the law is what the Supreme Court says it is. So if they're in the wisdom of the court, we should go ahead and organize for them. The EC will go ahead and do it.
Let's touch on some more outstanding issues with the 2020 elections. We know that, for instance, the Asin North issue has come up, and quite some developments in recent times as well that is beginning to raise a lot of eyebrows as to whether or not the EC is prepared for such an exercise. The issue about the likelihood that some MPs may lose their seats in Parliament. Let's start first with Sarah Josafo. The first Deputy Speaker has spoken. He believes that after missing the 15 days in Parliament, automatically the Clerk of Parliament is supposed to notify your office for you to organize fresh elections in the constituency. Are you able to confirm if Parliament has officially reaching to you, communicating to you that that seat is vacant or otherwise?
Let me start by saying that the EC has always been ready for by-elections.
For any by-election?
We have always been ready because it's part of our mandate to organize by-elections. So we have our structures in place. So if even in the wisdom of the courts or Parliament decides that about 50 of their members are resigning or they want to resign, and whether the EC is ready, we are always ready. And now you mentioned the Honorable Adwoa Safo. Right. We follow the news like I think ordinary Ghanaians also do. And as we speak now, we've not received any notification that a parliamentary seat is vacant, whether Asen North, Domikwabinya, or any place, or Ayawa. So we've never received any information like that. But as an institution, we are working. People always think that we only work during elections. There are a lot of work.
That's been the long
No, we have a lot of work doing. We train our staff. We do a lot of capacity building, a lot of administrative things to do. So we are always ready. But as we speak now, there is nothing on our table to indicate that a seat is vacant.
Do you feel that you have the locus to decide whether or not the Domikwabinya seat, for instance, is vacant? Do you feel you have some locus into that?
You see, we don't have any locus on that. The EC is an impartial institution, an independent institution who has a mandate.
But you said you were law-abiding as well. The first Deputy Speaker says, well, the clerk is supposed to notify you so that you go ahead with the
based on what the first Deputy Speaker said, that means if the clerk has not notified us, the EC cannot jump the gun and say, people are saying somebody should resign, so we are also joining the bandwagon. The Parliament works through rules, so there are processes. So if Parliament writes to us that, this seat is vacant and this and that must be done, we are ready. We are law-abiding, that's what I said.
How about the Asin North situation?
The Asin North, I understand the court processes are ongoing, and we've not received any green light from our lawyers to indicate that we should go ahead and prepare anything. But I mentioned earlier that the EC has always been ready because we know that it's part of our mandate to organize by-elections when they occur. But our lawyers haven't given us any indication to that effect. And Parliament has not also written to us to indicate that Asin North or any other place is vacant and that we should go ahead and organize elections there. We have not received that.
There was a lot of tension even after the 2020 general elections. Some political parties did not get the chance at winning the election, and they had some concerns with the EC and your posture as well. Part of that group has got to do with the National Democratic Congress. They believe that even till date, consensus has not been as strong as it used to be in the past. The General Secretary of the party telling me some weeks ago that the sole platform you have, which is the IPAC, the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, which hitherto used to be that platform where you dialogue on issues, is no longer the case. He says it's become an information center, to just paraphrase what it is that he told me. Why is the EC not allowing itself and opening up to listen to the political parties in terms of planning for the 2024 elections?
You know, one thing we need to point out is that politicians always have, colloquially, they have what I call, they have a wonkish desire for partisan politics. So they can say things and clearly you know that's not what is actually happening. And I think they say things, I don't even think they mean it. Because when you talk about consensus, the last time I checked the meaning of consensus doesn't mean 100%. There is consensus and there is unanimity. Okay. When you are saying unanimous, it's like everyone is on the same page. You pointed out IPAC has several political parties, about 27, but we know about 12 of them have regularly been attending the meetings. And IPAC, the EC officials are there. Apart from the EC official, we have civil society organizations, and you are a media person, you can engage the civil society organizations that attend IPAC. And I know the National Peace Council, we have some development partners who also attend IPAC. And I don't think it's my mission to defend what the EC does there. You can engage the smaller political parties who come.
But we also have seen some spectacles even in the heat of the 2020 elections. The chairperson having some exchanges with, for instance, the General Secretary of the NDC. We're not privy to what circumstances may have led to this, but it's quite obvious in that exchange that some talks have broken down between the EC and the main opposition party. Some believe that looking at the stake that that opposition party holds in our democracy, it's just okay for the EC to rebuild that relations with friendly relations with the NDC. Is it the case that, and do you admit, first of all, that it's broken down and that you need to repair it?
I think at the EC level, we don't have any problem with any political party. We don't have any problem with the NDC.
Right.
You know, I think you heard the NDC boycotted IPAC after the 2020 elections.
Yeah.
All the letters to inviting the parties to IPAC, NDC is always invited.
Oh, you keep inviting them?
Oh, we keep inviting them. The last one I checked on the email list, Mr. Johnson Asiedu received the email. We send letters, we invite.
Right.
So they have boycott. If they are saying they have boycott, but they receive the letters.
So you keep inviting
we
them?
keep inviting.
You don't want to
Hopefully,
stop inviting
we don't know if this month or next month there will be another IPAC. We will still invite. We recently even wrote a letter to the NDC, to all the political parties, to bring nominations for the continuous registration. We have the modalities.
Oh, okay, so there are some modalities.
So
we'll talk about it. Right.
We wrote to the political parties, and at the IPAC commission discussed with them, and we said we'll give NDC 1 slot, MPP 1 slot, civil society organization, I think we gave them 3 slots.
Right.
And we gave the smaller political parties also 3 slots. So MPP 1, NDC 1, and we gave EC 3 slots. We wrote to the NDC to nominate. The NDC responded to that, and they nominated someone. So we think that we don't have any problem with them. And you know, recently we organized the constituency, regional, national executive election for the MPP. I understand the NDC one. So the NDC will invite us to come and do it. Because by law, we are supposed to supervise it for them. Right. I think the EC takes inspiration from, I think there is a scripture in Hebrews, follow peace with all men. Oh. I think Hebrews chapter 12, it talks about that you can have a problem with the EC, but by the nature of our work, we can't have a problem with you. So if NDC writes to us this month that we are organizing our constituency elections, come and do for us, we are ready. Because by law, we are supposed to do that for them. So we don't have any problem. And you know, you said certain things happened and we went to court. I think we went to the court and the evidence was very, very clear that there were no irregularities, there were no illegalities that were pursued by the EC. And all Ghanaians got to know what happened. And indeed, I remember when we saw when they went to court, the charges against the EC. When I read it, I noticed that there was nothing in it. And you are a media person. I know the media, you try to be very objective. You try to be very neutral. But being neutral doesn't mean that when something is wrong, you don't point out.
Okay,
the evidence is there.
I'll tell you what, you didn't give biscuits to the tea that you gave.
Oh, but I remember that. I think we offered, but he chose that. I remember we offered.
He didn't want the biscuits. He wanted the tea.
I remember we offered. So I think as far as the EC, we don't have any problem, and we think that we want to do something that will make Ghana the envy. Right. And don't forget that the work we did in 2020. A lot of our officers are being invited. Ethiopia, they came here. We were invited to Nigeria. Recently, we went to Kenya. This past few days, about 4 of our officers have gone to Kenya. And I think one of them, we even went with one of your senior reporters, saying what happened in Ghana, they want to replicate that in Kenya. So we think that we are doing something very, very special. But don't forget that opposition political parties have historically been trying to undermine, especially when it comes to the EMB. But I think the evidence is clear. And I know within the top hierarchy of the NDC, they know that under no circumstance can the EC take a decision to do something to affect it. We will never do that. And we will never be a party to anything that will undermine the fortunes of any political party.
Since you're talking about the fallouts from the presidential election petition, obviously you believe that following that process, some persons may not necessarily be happy with the outcome of it, and that there's a need for the EC to try and just bring everyone along. I mean, after the decision of the court, have you made an attempt as a commission to perhaps reach out to all the parties involved?
No,
have you done that?
I mentioned that we've been reaching out to all the parties. Right. No, the nature of the EC's work is not to engage in trying to, as if you appear, as if you are trying to pamper or babysit some political. That's not our mission. Right. We have a clear mandate spelled out in Article 45 of the Constitution. And when you read further, there are certain things that enjoin the EC to do certain things, and we make sure we don't joke with that because people can take legal action against us. And I mentioned since that incident, I think the court ruling somewhere in March or April 2021, we've been having several IPAC meetings. The first one, we had even a 2 or 3 days retreat in one of the hotels not far away from this place. We invited all the political parties. The NDC was invited. Since then, we've had about maybe about 8 or so IPAC meetings. The minutes of the meetings are sent to them. Invitations are sent to them. So as we speak now, we don't have any problem. And I mentioned earlier that the NDC will be having their constituency, their regional and their national executive elections. The Constitution, the Political Parties Act, enjoins us to supervise it for them. So I'm pretty sure if they've not written to us, they will be writing very soon to inform us, and we are going to engage them to look at that. And the EC is ever ready to do it for them. So we don't have any problem with anyone.
Right. Even before we wrap up, you were just talking briefly about the modalities, the allocation you're giving to some political parties and the civil society groups with regard to the continuous registration exercise. Is there something more that the general public needs to know about this?
No, I think the committee to meet, because we informed the committee members that we want to ensure the CI is laid. Once the CI is laid, then we can come to the discussion table.
So that would then permit you to go into the details of it.
Yes.
But while you are at it, in terms of continuous registration exercise, those of us, our counterparts abroad, have always had that concern about ROPA. I'm sure that you set up a committee to look into that. Why is it taking us so long to just roll out that policy? And do we have a clear sense of the time we'll go ahead with that?
That's very difficult to talk about because the ruling of the court made very clear that all Ghanaians abroad should be given the chance to register and vote. And you know, presently the UN has about 193 countries. And I understand there are Ghanaians in all these countries. So it's a big issue. But the Commission made some significant progress. Before the 2020 election, we sent a CI to Parliament about Ghanaians abroad, registering them for them to take part in the voting. And Parliament, in the wisdom of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament, they said no. They wanted to do some consultations. And the life of that Parliament came to an end. Right. So the EC is still on the drawing board looking at how it will introduce a new one. But the challenge here is that although the ruling was very clear, telling EC, make sure you do it. But in Ghana, will you be able to organize in all parts of the world? So this is what, at the highest level of the Commission,
So what were the recommendations that the previous committee gave you, and how are you going to inform that in the next attempt you're going to make at bringing it up? Basically,
they informed us that, if possible, maybe some countries must be put together. So you look at the countries in Africa. You know, Africa, you have the southern portion, the middle, the western. Maybe you can have one place for a place like Nigeria so that all those in West Africa. But here again, the challenge is that if you are telling a Ghanaian in Togo to go to Nigeria to go and register, it's going to be a challenge. You look at even a country like the USA, where the recommendation was that, let's have registration centers at maybe a place like New York, where we have the Ghana, the consulate is there. We have a place like Houston, we have a consulate. But US is so big that, let's say somebody is resident in a place like Columbus, Ohio, and you are telling the person to go to Washington, D.C., which by flying is even about 1.5 hours or so, and by road you are looking at almost 9 hours to go and register.
So resources may challenge that.
So all these are issues. But you see, practically, we don't think so much in terms of resources. It's our job to send it to Parliament. Right. And in the wisdom of Parliament, if the CI goes through, then it will now be incumbent upon the government to ensure that we get the money to do that. So it's a big challenge. You know, some countries, I know Kenyans are voting on Tuesday, and they are doing that. Their citizens are, but they've selected some few countries. I know they are voting in a place like London, I think US, and you know, a place like UK. Look at Ghanaians are in Scotland, Ghanaians are in Northern Ireland, in Wales, in England. So if you tell them to all come to London to go and vote, it's going to be, so there are certain fundamental challenges that must be addressed. And we believe that when we send another CI to Parliament in their wisdom, we'll look at it very, very dispassionately so that Ghanaians will benefit. Because I think it makes sense for Ghanaians abroad to vote, because the Article 42 is very clear. All Ghanaians who have attained the age of 18. Right. And it doesn't specify whether you are living in Ghana or you are living abroad. But we also understand that there are certain structures, certain impediments that must be cleared for people abroad to be able to vote.
Let me give you the opportunity to speak to Ghanaians and share your final thoughts with them.
I think in terms of final thoughts, I would say that the Commission's continuous registration exercise is something we think is very, very good. And we are working on the CI, and we are hoping that the Parliament in their wisdom will accept that the Ghana card will be good for us, so that the CI will be laid, all parliamentarians will support it to ensure that the integrity of our system is always maintained. For the past 30 years, we have been using the grantor system, which has been fraught with challenges, but we've been managing it for a while. But we think that as a country, we've come of age, and the time has come for us to have a system which is so scientific and all of us can testify. And again, I made the point that if you use the Ghana card, it doesn't mean that you cannot be challenged. Right. But that one, you reduce the several challenges imbued with the guarantor system. And we think that will help us to get a more perfect, a more robust system that the political parties will all be excited that this is good for Ghana.
Dr. Bosman Asare, thank you.
You're welcome. Really appreciate that.
And you can always watch a playback of that interview on our social media handles at JoyNews on TV and also at myjoyonline.com. Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. Let's take you to the Ashanti region. Police at Ebuaka are investigating how the bodies of a wife and a husband were discovered in their flat. 2 teenage children of the couple were also rescued in a near unconscious state. Here is Ohimin Tewe's report detailing the incident.
Jacksons, a well-to-do family, lived in a rented apartment at Malkro Plot 10 after the family relocated from the Netherlands about 7 years ago. They never socialized with other residents as they live independently. But after several months of not hearing nor seeing the Jacksons, the live-with neighbors lodged a complaint with the Ebuaka police. The bodies of the couple were discovered in a decomposing state. Their 2 children were also found in unconscious state. They were locked up without food and water in that 2-bedroom apartment for days with the decomposing bodies of their dead parents. The traumatized children of the deceased are currently on admission at the Ebuaka Polyclinic. Dr. Mensa Manye is medical superintendent.
They were brought in unconscious. It was a long month of traumatization in which, from what I gathered from the police, they were locked up in a room like for months. The extent of the decomposition and the odor or the smell is not the best. But I understand the man put an ice pack on the woman on the floor. That one too, I can't tell what he was trying to do. And he himself died in the washroom whilst, going to toilet. That's the water closet, I mean. So the children as a whole, they were brought in unconscious, very weak, dehydrated, very, very dehydrated. So that was the state they came in to the hospital. So I assembled my emergency team because they need a resuscitation. That is to give a lot of fluid. If there need be, you give some antibiotics so that we can always save the life of those 2 children. When you lose a lot of fluid, up to a certain percentage, your line or your veins collapse. So we're finding it difficult. Finally, we had it and resuscitated them.
Police say it has been difficult connecting with the families of the deceased. the children have been referred to the Social Welfare Department. Meanwhile, Dr. Manye is recommending psychotherapy support for the children.
To see your parents dead, both in the same room, and the trauma, even they accuse we adults and not being able to even go out. You are not able to go out from the presence of your parents. You see them decaying. You see them getting rotten. The odor is coming. As time goes on, because the elderly one could not still actually talk well. I don't know if it's because of the trauma. Maybe some psychologists may come in to actually talk to them so that they can, before they can get out of that situation.
From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Oyemiteria reporting.
The Upper West Regional Police Command says it has commenced investigations to unravel the mystery surrounding the gruesome murder of a private security man at Baguri, a suburb in the Wa municipality. 65-year-old Mumuni Jato, who is a father of 6, was parked at his security point, lying on the bench in the night and allegedly hit with a cement block and secretly buried in a shallow grave at an uncompleted structure. JoyNews' Upper West Regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports that this is the 4th time a security personnel has been murdered in such a circumstance.
The people of the Wa municipality once again woke up to another sad news. It's about a gruesome murder of one of their own. He's a private security man who was on night duty and was gruesomely murdered and buried in a shallow grave.
Right behind me, you can see a bench right under there. That is where the victim was sleeping. And according to reliable source, he came for duty on Friday night with his basket, and the basket was parked behind him. The following morning, the family could not find him. And so they came and made a report. We made a report and we went on radio to make an announcement. Only to be told on Sunday morning that the body had been seen buried under an uncompleted building.
We are now entering the uncompleted structure to see things for ourselves and where the man was allegedly buried. And I can tell you that this is the exact place where he was buried, in a shallow grave right here.
The body was cut open, and according to the pathologists, the heart was taken away. Nothing else, only the heart was taken away. That is the report of the pathologists. And so that's the police observation at the moment. But like I told you, this one God has blessed and we are able to lift out some finger impression. So we are hoping and praying to God that we shall be able to get to the bottom of the matter.
For the 4th time in as many months, residents of the Wa municipality, particularly Paguri and Kambale, have been living in fear and having sleepless nights, wondering who could be next regarding these suspected ritual murders.
Are you afraid? Oh, we are afraid. Even the last I cannot sleep, the very day I cannot sleep. Even my family, we cannot sleep. They was afraid about it. Even my children, they was crying. That the thing happened, like they were crying, they cannot sleep. They was crying. So we people to find some way you can do, and this problem was resolved.
The Upper West Region's Police Command says they are not resting on their oars in pursuing the criminals and their elements.
It takes time. You might not have confidence, but I can assure you that the police, we have confidence in ourselves. And I'm telling you that we are doing our best. And I've told you, the Inspector General of Police have even dispatched some men to come and assist to unravel the mystery behind this murder case, this serial killing within the municipality.
Out of the 4 suspected gruesome murders that occurred in the municipality, all of them were private security personnel, and 3 of them took place at the Poguri Enclave, an enclave who serves as the entertainment hub of the municipality and turning into a criminal den. Alaji Sakotayre Momen is the Wa mayor and is deeply worried to the marrow about the criminal trend.
Why are they targeting watchmen? Because the last one was a school watchman whose blood was drained completely and he was not open. They did not take any, organ from him. It was the blood that was drained. And this person is also a security personnel, a watchman. I mean, who was also killed and certain organs removed from him. So in fact, it's a cause of concern. And if you look at the environment and where those people work, you see that even owners of those properties have not personally taken security matter seriously. Because look at this particular incident. This big story building where the man is watching, there is no any security light under. So if you are lying under the darkness, I mean, your predators will take advantage of the environment and then come after you. But one thing that makes me happy is the fact that the Municipal Security Council and the Regional Security Council have come together to look into this matter seriously.
The victim, Mumuni Jato, is somebody who's known in this community. He has 6 children and a wife.
He was very close to the chief and he offered so many supports to the community. And now that he has gone, it will be a very big blow to all of us.
Friends, close relations, politicians from all sides of the political divide are visiting the family of the 65-year-old elder of Kambale to condole and commiserate with them. Among them is the Member of Parliament for the West Central constituency, Dr. Rashid Pelpu, who condemned the Dastardly Act and wants the perpetrators to be fished out.
We are sad about it, we are worried about it, we are calling on the police to really demonstrate leadership and demonstrate professionalism so we can grasp these people and deal with them.
Residents of this community are surely in grief over the gruesome murder of a man they say is their pillar and will remain same until the perpetrators of the heinous crime are arrested.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam.
Well, let's also focus on some other international developments. It's still eyes on Ukraine and Russia these days in Europe, but it's not the only situation on the ground in Ukraine that is causing some worries. Countries that heavily depend on Russian energy supplies accuse Moscow of energy warfare and fear that Putin might cut off gas flows entirely in retaliation for Western sanctions. But they are not sitting down idly by waiting for the West to happen. So we can now get more from DW's Nicole Frolich, who is joining us now from Berlin. And Nicole, I'm just interested in knowing Germany is highly dependent on Russian gas, but what has been done to reduce this consumption?
Noticeable change if you walk through cities like Berlin is that at night a lot of public monuments are no longer illuminated and some fountains are turned off. You may ask what that has to do with gas. Well, Germany still generates 14% of its electricity with gas. It does, however, get more uncomfortable than that. Sports facilities and schools have started turning off the warm water tap, so no more hot showers after gym class. Public buildings will see a reduction in heating once temperatures start to drop, and electricity use will be cut by no longer illuminating rooms and hallways when not in use. The aim here is to save as much energy as possible, to have a cushion to fall back on if Russia does indeed cut off supplies. But we're also seeing regions that are stocking up on coal and oil to make up for a possible lack of gas. Consumers, though, are sure to feel the sting, and that is a huge problem. Private households account for a third of Germany's gas consumption, and for them, reductions can't really be mandated. But millions are bound to restrict domestic use out of necessity because with gas prices skyrocketing already, now many people are concerned about the impact this crisis will have on their own pockets.
Now, I guess it's not only Germany that's going into energy saving mode, is it?
After the EU decided last week to voluntarily reduce gas consumption by 15%, a number of countries started implementing measures they hope will contribute to that goal. Governments are starting with cuts where they hurt the least, turning off illuminated advertisements at night or urging companies to switch off computers when workers are at home. But with around half of all EU households heating with gas, there is, as you can probably imagine, a lot of focus on the ways we keep warm or cool. In France, stores now face face fines if they run the air conditioned but keep their doors open. For example, already back in June, Greece launched Operation Thermostat, as they call it, a more broad mission to reduce energy consumption by 2030 that has ACs in public buildings running at 27 degrees tops this summer. Same goes for people in countries like Italy and Spain. They now have to find their comfort zone between 19 and 27 degrees Celsius. Madrid, which aims to cut gas use by up to 8%, is also hoping to encourage more people to work from home again in order to save energy on transport and in buildings. Spain jumping into action here as drastically as it is actually somewhat of a surprise, because Spain is not nearly as dependent on Russian energy as Germany, and still the measures are much wider reaching than here. Some German commentators have criticized this as shameful, saying that Berlin is relying too heavily on solidarity, failing to pull its own weight in this.
Paints the picture for us. If Russia were to cut off energy supplies, how big of a problem would that be for European countries?
Well, one thing that's important to point out here is that even during the Cold War, Russia was a reliable energy supplier, and that no longer being the case says a lot about the state of affairs. Now, a full shutdown would considerably drive up consumer costs across Europe by far over 50% and have a crippling effect on energy-intensive industries like cement or steelmaking. Goldman Sachs calculates that in Germany and Italy, those may have to cut their usage by as much as 80%. And with gas then possibly being saved for households, there wouldn't be enough to go around for industrial use, which could lead to furloughs and companies going out of business. And it's predicted that the economy in the Eurozone would, as a result, shrink by more than 2%. So a very grim outlook, and one that EU leaders want to avoid at all costs. They're scrambling to ramp up the use of renewables and turning to Norway and Azerbaijan for more piped gas. The US, as the world's largest exporter of liquefied natural gas, is of course happy to help, but not even they can fill the Russia-sized gap in European gas tanks. So a lot of uncertainty, and despite all efforts, a lot of dependence still on a very unpredictable man in the Kremlin.
Times indeed in Europe, but I'm grateful, Nicole, for your time, our partners with the DW. But that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I am Blessed Sogah. Don't forget to log on to myjoyonline.com. You have some stories there already. The 6 students remanded over another rape case in KNUST. Probably you may want to catch up on that on the site. There's also more coming your way on the JoyNews channel. We'll see you again.